Trust. I guess it's going to be the word of the pod today. Trust. That's what's important for this offense. What was it like for you when you first got to New England? Like I said, you had that breakout year with Buffalo. Then you get to the Patriots. And you know what you hear through the public. But then when you stepped in that locker room, when you started practicing, being around those guys, being around those coaches, was this like a holy moment for you of like, this is legit?
Yeah, it was a much different feel walking into that facility. You know, listen, you walk in there and all of a sudden you see all the hardware right away. So you already know that you're in a franchise and an organization that models themselves after winning football games year in and year out. And that's the entire organization. That's just not the football. That's not the players. It's the coaching staff. It's the equipment room, you know, the scouts. Everyone is involved in making that organization go, and how they were able to win football games for so many decades, you know, with Bill and Tom. You know, for me, I knew what I was walking into. I knew that the expectation was, listen, we're going to a Super Bowl, or that's a failed season. And Bill was pretty vocal about that. And his expectations were through the roof. You know, it was we win an AFC Championship game in 2018, and then we lose the Super Bowl. You know, giving out rings for a moment like that can be a big moment in someone's career. It was just kind of like another team meeting, right? It's like, okay, we didn't accomplish our goal. So I knew that the expectation, I knew what was going to be expected of me going in there is like I was going to have to be on my best every single day to make sure that I can live up to this expectation and that I can play within this organization and be successful and be a part of something that, you know, can potentially has the chances of being, you know, a really great football team. And I was able to play for the locker room. Those 3 years that I played in New England was amazing. I mean, every single guy was willing to do whatever it took to win football games.
What did it do for you to be in a wide receivers room where you're undrafted, Danny's undrafted, Julian Edelman's a 7th-round pick, you're catching passes from a 6th-round pick and Tom Brady, who was the GOAT at that point. But what did that do for you to be in a wide receiver rooms like that where all of you guys are underdogs from the moment you got into the league?
We had that mentality, man. I mean, no matter how many football games we won, no matter how many times we were going to Super Bowls, we always had that chip on our shoulders, especially in the wide receiver room, because everyone always kind of counted us out. You know, no matter what year it was, I don't care how many games you won or how successful you were throughout the season. It's just like, oh, these guys stink. But that wasn't really the case for us. We didn't listen to the outside noise. We had that chip that used to sit pretty heavily right here on our shoulders, and we played like it. You know, we didn't back down from anyone. We played we played aggressively. You know, we were very physical. Being a receiver in New England, and especially in Josh's offense, you're going to be asked to run block a lot. That's going to be a big part of this learning curve for these receivers. Not saying that they didn't do that, you know, underneath Van Pelt, but, you know, Josh is going to expect the receivers to be a big part of this run game. And we had that mentality, man. We had that underdog mentality that, you know, it didn't matter who we were playing, what game it was, where we were, who our quarterback was. It didn't matter to us. We were going to go out there, do our job, and do it to the best that we possibly can, and then let the chips fall where they fall.
I'm sure you get it a lot, but how did you do it? Like, it's not just and there's the attachment. Chris Hogan played lacrosse. Like, I don't know if you knew that. Obviously you did. Yeah. But it's more of like, you played lacrosse. You only played 1 year of college football, and it was at Monmouth. Like, not a powerhouse. Only people from Jersey know what Monmouth is. How did you make that happen to, break through into the league from being on a 53-man roster to then being a guy that Tom Brady relied on, a guy that won 2 Super Bowls, a guy that had a really big impact on these offenses?
Look, I was fortunate, man. I got a lot of opportunities, and when the opportunity came, I made the most of it. You know, going back to Monmouth, where I didn't even really play receiver, I played corner, and I played corner throughout the entire year, and only had like 12 catches. But I got an opportunity to train with guys that played in the league. I got an opportunity to run at a pro day, and I took advantage of that opportunity and blew that out of the water, and, you know, got noticed. And then once I got my foot in the door, it was really about just not letting that close on me. And listen, I got cut more. You know, I've never been cut from anything in my entire life, and then getting into the NFL and being cut, it didn't really deter me from trying to live out this dream. It really only fueled that fire. And I was raw, right? Like you said, I only played a year of football in college, and yeah, I played in high school, but I took 4.5 years off, and then had to go back and then try to compete with some of the best in the world to do this. I just relied on my athleticism. So I had a lot to learn, and I mean, it was football for me 24/7 for so many years. And, then I got to a point when I got to Buffalo, I started cracking the roster, and then I started playing more of the receiver position, and I just kept learning and learning and learning. And when I got to New England, I thought the learning was over, but no, it was just getting started. And I learned so much from Tom and so much from Josh and Bill. I mean, those guys took my football IQ, from here to here. And I was always a guy that I never shied away from anything. I always did what was asked of me, whether it was being a starting receiver and then playing on all four faces of special teams. Like, that was something that I did throughout my career, and that was asked of me. And I was a very firm believer, and Bill was a guy that always would kind of tell his players this, is like, listen, if you're not really good at one thing, then you need to be great at 5, 10 things. And that's kind of where I hung my hat on, was I was going to work my butt off to be able to contribute on special teams, do all the stuff that I need to do in the receiver room, so that I can be helpful and help this team win football games.
When you look back on that time too, of, like you said, to learn all those different things, how demanding the system is, how demanding the culture is, we'll see something that mirrors that with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels for sure. Do you think Drake May, from what you see, he can grasp that and run with that system? Because I have the confidence in it. And what you speak about with Josh McDaniels, there's the adaptability he'll bring that many people underrate about his approach to coaching.
Yeah, I think that Josh and Drake are going to get along great. Drake seems like a very bright, talented, young quarterback. I think that he's going to be eager to learn from Josh. I mean, how could you not, right? Josh worked with Tom Brady for almost 2 decades, right? This was the greatest quarterback of all time. And how could you not want to be in the same room with Josh, where you're going to be watching film of Tom Brady do exactly what he's going to be asked of you to do on the field? I mean, that to me is like the perfect, formula for him to go out there and be successful. So I think that Josh is going to have to adapt a little bit to how Drake learns and how quickly he's able to kind of digest the information that's being thrown at him. But I also think that Josh is going to do a good job of challenging Drake, knowing that he's a smart kid, knowing that he's going to probably want to take a lot on. And I think that Drake's got to put that on his shoulders to try to get this offense up to speed as quickly as possible once they get in there into the facility with Josh and they go day one install. And listen, this is going to be Drake's team, and he's got to let his offense know, and he's got to get them all up to speed and really put that on himself.
What was that 2016 season like? Because we talk about the adaptability of Josh McDaniels. I think back to Cam Newton, to Mac Jones, to dealing with the quarterbacks that they was being dealt, and how he adapted the offense. I mean, from Brady, Newton, to Mac Jones. But what was that 2016 season like, where Josh McDaniels throughout the year had to go Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, and then eventually Tom Brady returned to the team?
Yeah, he in those games, that we had Jimmy and the game that we had Jacoby, who had a broken finger and could barely hold on to a football, and we still had Texans came in and we blew them out. We did what we were good at, right? And we did what Josh made play calls and formations, and the way that he went about calling those games was, I'm not going to put my quarterback in a bad position. I'm going to do what he's good at. I'm going to put him in a good position, something that he's comfortable in, and then rely on the veterans of the team, the Julians, the Gronks, myself, Danny, the guys on the offensive line, LeGarrette Blount, James White, James Devlin. I'm going to rely heavily on those guys to make this go. And I think Jimmy was the same thing. Jimmy had a lot of talent, and he was really good and played really well for us in those couple of games that he played. But again, we did things that Jimmy was good at. We did some more stuff outside of the pocket because Jimmy was able to move a little bit better than Tom, and he had the legs. So I think there's going to be some of these different things that you're going to start seeing with Drake. He can see the field, but he's also very athletic, and he can extend for plays. And as a receiver, I would be pretty excited to play for a kid that can extend football plays, because that's all going to turn into big plays down the field and stuff that you're kind of looking for to change field position, chunk plays, and put some points on the board.
Yeah, what excited me, the hires that they've made so far, like Riley Larkin, just an offensive assistant, but bringing him from Ohio State and what Chip Kelly did with Will Howard this past year. Drake May, much more athletic, better arm, but he's going to not just use his legs, like you say, to do, Chris, not just make sure to bring his athleticism in it, but use it the right way and like maximize his potential. Man, I couldn't bring you on with bringing up the 28-3 comeback. You had that huge catch on third down leading to the game-tying touchdown. You had the huge catch in overtime leading to the game winner. Whenever you look back on that, I'm sure you asked about it all the time. Just how? How did you guys do it?
I don't know, man. I get when that game comes on TV, and I still get nervous watching that football game, even knowing what the ending is going to come out to, because you watch it from start to finish, and you just say, "Dang! Like, how does this team come back in a football game like this against a Atlanta Falcons team that was very, very good?" Listen, a lot of things have to go your way, and what I loved about 2016, what I loved about 2017, and even the 2018 team, that team was we added some pieces to the puzzle every single year, but no matter, there was no quit in that team. Even throughout the season, we dealt with adversity very well. We were able to handle adversity. We were able to overcome challenges. We were able to overcome obstacles. And that was an enormous obstacle and challenge for us to overcome. But it just came down to us just kind of understanding what we needed to do. And we needed some things to kind of the ball to bounce our way. And we needed our defense to kind of come up with some big plays. And our offense needed to put points on the board. And, we came out in that second half really like it was a 0-0 game. And we just kept playing, and I think all of a sudden you look up in the fourth quarter and we're down by a touchdown, and you just don't even understand how we even got to this point. But you go down, you get a big drive, big catches by Julian, Danny, myself, and obviously James White had the game of his life. And you go down, you score a touchdown, tie the game, and we got the ball in overtime. I knew it was a wrap. And once we had the ball on the goal line and we called that play, that was a play that we worked on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it was always successful when we had competitive periods against our starters on defense, and I knew we were winning the football game there, man, and that's a pretty surreal moment to understand that you're going to win a Super Bowl and B to win a Super Bowl in that fashion in overtime when you were down 25 points, man. I mean, yep. That was an unreal moment. For me personally, and then for that entire team to do it like that, man, it was pretty cool. It was a highlight easily. That was it has to be, right. I mean, how could it not be one of the highlights of your career? And I was fortunate to go to another Super Bowl that year, the year after, and another one the year after that. So it became a thing in New England, but you'll never get over that first one.
Yeah, we had James on, and what boggles my mind when we asked him the same thing of, you guys didn't score your first touchdown until late in the third quarter. When it got to that fourth quarter, what is even said in the huddle as you guys are still mounting that comeback? Like, what is Tom Brady telling you guys in the huddle? What are your teammates saying to you in the huddle? Or is anything even said at that point?
Nothing, even at halftime, man. Other than you hear the rah stuff about Julian yelling, "This is going to be a great comeback," and I remember Duron Harmon being pretty vocal about that kind of stuff. There was nothing said. We knew that we just had gone out and played the worst half of football that we had put together all year round. And when we came out in that second half, it wasn't pressure. It wasn't Tom saying like, "Oh my God, like we need this." It was just like, "Hey, go out there, do your job. If I come to you, make a play, take advantage of the opportunity, and we're just going to keep chipping away at this thing and kind of see what happens. Let's play good football. Let's do what we've been doing. Let's get positive plays. Let's let our defense make some plays for us, and then we'll see what happens. But let's not go out here and just hang our heads because we didn't play well in the first half. Like, we know what we were capable of. We knew that we could put points on the board, and we just needed those opportunities. And thankfully, our defense played exceptionally well in that second half, gave us the ball back a few times, and we were able to put points on the board.
If you went back to that kid that was going to high school at Ramapo, playing football, but then accepted a lacrosse scholarship to Penn State, and you said, "Hey, you're going to be in 3 Super Bowls one day. You're going to win 2. You're going to play with the greatest quarterback of all time, and you're going to be an impact player in those Super Bowls." What would he say to you?
he'd probably say that you're crazy. But also, that's what you dream about as an athlete, as a football player. And if you're going to tell me that, your hard work and all the stuff that you do and your approach to the game and your work ethic, and that's going to all pay off for you in the long run, then yeah, I could believe that, because, I was a guy that wanted to be in the locker room at, before 6 a.m. and I wouldn't leave until after 6, and I wanted to watch film, and I was eager to learn, and I was like that throughout my whole career, and I was like that even before I got to the NFL. I loved the process. I had to trust the process, and I had to get opportunities. And I was very fortunate to get opportunities early on in my career, and when I got them, I had to make the most of them, and I just had to give them reasons why not to get rid of me every single year. And yeah, was that stressful as hell to do that every single year, and to not want your phone to ring on a Tuesday or the day after training camp ends, to kind of sit there just waiting for a phone call? Yeah, it's stressful, man, but I'd go back and do it all over again in a heartbeat.
What was it like when you look back? Who was that guy that was like a mentor for you? Whether he was when you were in training camp, say with the Dolphins or Niners, or when you were with Buffalo or New England, who was like that one player or maybe a coach that was a huge mentor for you that helped you out so much down the road?
There's a guy in Buffalo, Fred Jackson, was a huge mentor of mine. To this day, I mean, he was just like, God, he was like almost like a father figure to me. He had been in the league for so long, and he had come from nothing and made himself one of the best running backs that Buffalo has ever had, and helped that team win football games. It was a huge part of that community. But I think for what I learned from Fred the most was really how to be a pro. His approach to the game, how he studied, how he took care of his body. Those were things that I didn't necessarily, I don't want to say I didn't do well, but I had a lot to learn in that way, where, yeah, this is a grind. This is a grind from August all the way till January, and you need to be able to play at peak performance every single Sunday, no matter how your body's feeling. There are things that you can do to kind of facilitate that and get you better. And so for me to have him in that locker room, I leaned on him a lot, and I learned a lot from him, really just by watching too. I didn't have to ask questions, man. I just watched these guys. I watched the guys that did it in the league, that were successful in the league. When I got to New England, it was Tom, right? I watched Tom. How does Tom study? How does he take care of himself? Tom and Alex Guerrera changed my career, man. I mean, they kept me on the field. They helped me. They changed my whole perspective of how I can take care of myself better, how I can recover faster. They helped me tremendously in my career, that I kind of took on, even after I left New England, was something I could carry with me, and then also pass on to the younger generation, teaching these kids about, listen, I know how good of an athlete you are, but this is different, man. Going out there on a Sunday and playing against NFL players every single weekend, it's hard. It's hard, and you're going to not feel great every single week, and you're not going to feel good on Wednesdays when you got to put full pads on. You're not going to feel great on Thursdays, but the more that you can do, the more prep that you can put in, the more work that you can put in, that's only going to help you get to Sunday, so that when the Sunday comes around, obviously you feed off on that adrenaline a little bit about being underneath the lights and being in front of the fans, but making sure that you're doing all the little things to get you there is really, the stuff behind the scenes that people don't really know about or see. And that's what separates, I think. Obviously, great players perform on Sundays, and they put up the stats and they do all the stuff and they make the plays. But I think what separates really great players is what they do before Sunday. In the weeks leading up to it, their prep, their study, how they watch film, how they take care of their body, what they do in the off season. Those are the guys that you're going to hear about long after their career ends, and probably they're the type of guys that end up over there in Canton, Ohio, right, with a gold statue and something that's going to cement their legacy for forever, right? We're going to see one of the greatest, and I was lucky to play with one of the greatest too, and he'll be there. He should already be there, but he'll be there.
Hey, shout out to number 22, Fred Jackson with Buffalo and all that. And you bring up what he taught you with the preparation with your body, what you picked up all along the way. And I've asked you ad nauseum about Josh McDaniels. I haven't even asked you about Bill Belichick. Same thing. Like, again, because your journey is so impressive to go from what you did in college to get to that point. What was it like when you stepped in that building and you're first around Bill Belichick and you're in meetings with him, getting coached by him, getting yelled at by him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But the first team meeting, I'm sitting there, and they had lost to Denver in the AFC Championship game. So we're obviously sitting in there, and he immediately throws up clips of this. Right? So I hadn't been there, and he's going after Tom, he's going after Gronk, and that was my eye-opening experience of this guy expects everyone. He doesn't care who it is, what round you were drafted in, starting quarterback, practice squad player. It does not matter. His expectation is that you're going to be a championship type player. You're going to come in, you're going to perform, you're going to know how to do your job, and you're going to do it well. And if you don't, you're out, right? And so that was eye-opening to me. In so many ways. And yeah, listen, was I on the wrong end of some of these bad ball films throughout my 3 years there? 100%. And does it suck? Yeah, it does, man. When Bill is going after you for, drop pass, or he's telling you that Foxborough High School can play better than you, or you get a stupid mental error. I mean, these things happen. But also, he did it to the guys that he knew could handle it. He did it to the guys like Julian, right? Who's not going to be sensitive about it. He's just going to take it like a man, and he's going to go in and correct it, and he's going to let it not happen again. And if it does, he's going to get chewed out again. But again, just continuously go to work, knowing that this is not personal, man. This guy was about winning football games, and sure, it might have felt personal at sometimes, but it wasn't. That's all he cared about. He cared about winning football games, winning championships. And Bill was, being coached by him, he just, the stuff that he prepared us for every single week and throughout training camp. I mean, you'd be amazed at the stuff that he would start talking about, and then all of a sudden it would happen in a game. A punt, fair catch to lead to an extra, try to get a field goal kick, or, this guy, this punter, he's got not great hands, so we're going to rush him because I know he's going to drop a football, or he's going to fumble a snap. And sure enough, you go into a game and there it is, fumbled snap, and all these things, because he is a student of the game, and you have to be able to respect him for that, and how much film that he watches and prep that he does. And like I said, I learned a lot from Josh and Tom, but I learned so much from Coach Belichick just in those meeting rooms. If you really pay attention, man, you get your history lessons throughout the year, but you learn about football, and you learn he approaches the game and how to approach the game the right way.
I got to imagine it helped that you were a former lacrosse player, though, because he's got a weak spot for the sport. That had to give you something with him.
Yeah. Maybe for the first 5 minutes of my short visit, where it's you're a lacrosse player, you love lacrosse. He's a big Hopkins guy, so he's got some Hopkins helmets in his office, and he's got the sticks and everything, and that broke the ice for me for the first couple of minutes. But then it's okay, cool. You like lacrosse, I like lacrosse. How are you going to help this team win football games? I think we had some playful banter in the springtime, when throughout the season, and Penn State started to come on, and they started to get better, and if they were playing Hopkins, you pick your battles, I guess, or times you want to actually have a conversation with them. So if it was passing in the hallway between meetings, probably not the best time, but maybe in the morning, if he comes up or he's there, and you can get that feeling that he's not locked in and watching film or something. Say, hey, coach, did you watch Hopkins game? What'd you think? So I always had fun with that, and he was great to play for.